feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh my God. Oh, this is as low as I can go. I feel like that's, but I normally slouch. Oh yeah, I think it's fine. Oh, hi, and welcome to SABnessful, where I give my opinions that no one really cares about, but will give anyways. And for you astute viewers, yes, I have moved.
Again.
Not that anyone really cares, but I am in a new space, and it's very different. These. Oh. I'm so happy to be showing these. These are my bandanas. My children, most of them. You can't see actually most of them. There's like 100 here. I've been wanting to display them in the background, and finally in my new space I can, which is out of my parents. Woo! Huge accomplishment. But yeah, but with my first video in my new space, I figured let's do something simple, you know, nothing crazy. Let's just do a nice, simple tier ranking video on Traitors Ireland Season 1. But let's not waste any more time and just get right into the rankings, which of course, as always, I must describe how I rank these players. So first off, let's go over the tiers. We have the loved tier. They were great, they were good, they were okay, disliked, and they were there. So between loved and disliked, what I usually rate players on are two things. One, how good were they at the game? And two, how entertaining were they? If they were super entertaining and they were super good at the game, they're probably going to the loved tier. If they were boring but pretty good at the game, they're probably going to they were good tier. And if they were really good at the game, probably when they were great. I do tend to rank players higher if they were better at the game versus if they were entertaining. But if you were boring and bad at the game, you're going to the dislike category. And the they were there tier is for the players that were like eliminated first and just didn't get enough screen time to be properly rated. But as always, I will be going in the order of the players eliminated. And first and foremost is Gemma, who technically was eliminated first, technically wasn't, I'll get into that later, but she is going in they were there tier. So in the first episode of Traitors Ireland, there is a twist to where the group has to vote on who they think is the most trustworthy out of first impressions. Andrew was chosen, and then Andrew had to choose 3 people. He chose Gemma, John, and David. And then between those 3, he had to choose 2 people to eliminate. And I hated this twist. I thought this was such an unfair twist. And we have seen this type of twist before with the UK seasons, like in UK Season 1 and UK Season 3, but they did come back, and specifically UK Season 3, 3 people volunteered to eliminate themselves and then they came back. But with this twist, and it does come a little bit later in the season, but with this twist, both Gemma and John come back in and the group gets to vote on who they want to bring back. But unlike with UK Season 3, those 3 people where one of them was not brought back in via a vote, they chose to limit themselves. Like, they volunteered to leave the game, which is ridiculous. Gemma and John did not volunteer to be picked by Andrew. They were just chosen randomly, and Gemma just got royally fucked. She did, she got fucked, and it is so unfair. Can we just not eliminate players in the beginning and bring them back later? Like, first off, commit to the bit. If you're gonna eliminate them fully, but also don't eliminate them when it's not even their choice. Like, banishment and murder should really be the only ways players should be eliminated. Do not eliminate them based off of some random first impression twist where they have no control. Anyways, I hated that twist, really hated. And Gemma, poor Gemma, she got like maybe 2 lines, and so I can't rank her any higher than they were there. I think she really got screwed, and I honestly really feel bad for her. I know if that was me, I would be fucking pissed. But anyways, I digress. Moving on, the first person murdered was David. And I'm going to put him in the they were good tier. He gave a lot for his 1 episode. He was clearly a big personality, and he was someone that I was kind of surprised the Traitors choose to eliminate. He was someone that was eliminated first because usually what a lot of the Traitors seasons do is they go for like a big personality, but I think that's such the wrong move. I really feel like you should go for someone who you think is going to be very quiet. And I know you want a big first impression, but you know, someone like a David's going to be loud, and either loud and wrong or loud and suspicious. Like, he just screamed mischievous, and like he's going to get himself banished. It's kind of a waste of a murder to murder David. And also, he would have been great and entertaining, so a waste for us, the audience. I don't know how good he would have been at the game, but he clearly had a big personality that I think we kind of lost out on him being murdered first. Next is Diane, and poor Diane, she seemed like a sweet lady. I think I'll put her in her okay because honestly, I don't really remember much of her. I can't remember why they chose to banish her. I really probably should have just went back and reviewed the episodes, but I didn't. I don't know. I feel like it kind of was somewhat her fault that she got banished. So I think that's why I have to put her in there okay, not that just they were there. punishing her for something I can't remember. Whatever. Next is the second person murdered is Neil. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Neil. It might be Niall. Again, I didn't check it. I should have. I think it's Neil. It's Neil. He was okay. He was in long enough that I'm not going to put them in they were there tier, but he was really good at that one challenge where they had to speak Gaelic, I think, or like the old Irish language. First off, I like skipped most of the challenges. The challenges bore me. Usually they're inconsequential. Some of these challenges this season were like a gimme, like you were guaranteed to win the money. There was no challenge to it. And usually they got the challenge and then he got murdered, which honestly, I think I would have done the same. Like I like with Eamon specifically, like I was kind of thinking the same thing he was of like, let's just get rid of these people like Neil. Like he's on his high horse, let's get him out. It'll be brutal, it'll be perfect. And I think, yeah, that is perfect, especially because he was someone who I don't think was loud. I don't think he had a lot of suspicion on him. I think it was a good murder to murder Neil. And I would have done the same thing, like, oh, you really got the challenge, time for you to die. I really thought that was funny, but I think he was okay. I don't think he was like a bad player, but I didn't find him that entertaining. So I think he's in the okay tier. Next is the second person banishment. Wow, let's try that again. Next is the second Next is the second person banished in Nina. She goes in the they were good tier. Nina wasn't good at the game. I think she was kind of a mess. I think she was kind of all over the place, but she was kind of entertaining. Like she was, you know, sometimes if you're loud and wrong, you can be really frustrating, but also it can be really funny. And she treaded the line on that sometimes, but I think she was more entertaining than annoying, especially because she only lasted 2 round tables. Maybe she got in further and was consistently wrong or found it more annoying. So maybe she did benefit from getting out earlier. But a lot of people kept calling her out in that she has said things that she claimed she didn't say, and I think I kind of actually believe her based off the people who are accusing her. Like Patrick was one of them. He was saying that, oh, you said this to me, blah, blah, blah. And I think Patrick was kind of delulu, so I think in some ways Nina was unfairly called a liar and unfairly called a mess, but I also do think she was a bit messy in her social gameplay and going to a lot of people, but I did find it entertaining, so I will give her they were good. Next is Michele, and Michele, she's interesting. I'll put in the good tier for now. She was someone when we first saw in the first episode, I really thought was going to be a strong faithful. I thought she was going to be good at the game. I thought she's going to be a traitor hunter. She's going to be under the radar and she's going to be smart. And she was not. She was very emotional, very over the place, just had very bad reads. I think I'm kind of convinced in putting her and she was okay, but put her at top of okay for now. Michele, I think she was a lot more emotional than I was anticipating. Did not have a lot of good reads. Had like a weird theory that when Neil was eliminated, it was like, oh, well, he was the one person close to me, so the traitors murdered him to get back at me or something like that. I thought that was crazy, very self-centered. It's like, you are not the main character of this story, not even by a long shot. So she's gonna go and they were okay tier for me. Next is Linda, and I really liked Linda. I put it in they were great tier. Linda, I think, was good at the game. I think it's so unfortunate she got banished so early. I think she was kind of quiet in the beginning, and then when she kind of came out and started really swinging for Katelyn, I think it was too low, too late. I think people just found that behavior suspicious. I kind of blame her for that, but also I kind of don't. I think for the most part, the faithfuls do what they do and they just make a poor judgment and banish her. I mean, she clocked Katelyn right off the bat. I think she kind of had sound logic in that, okay, there's a lot of young women, so probably one of these young women is probably a traitor, which that's like metagaming. I think you should do that in Traitors, and I think she was metagaming and she had a correct read and she was correct on which of the young women it was. Was it a bit of a stretch? Yes, she could have easily been wrong. She could have easily said Kelley and been wrong with the same logic, but she wasn't. She correctly cut out Katelyn, and I think she would have been a good traitor hunter had she lasted in the game longer. I would have been very curious to see what she would have done once Katelyn was banished and who she would have gone to next. We'll never know. She wasn't maybe the most entertaining character, but I found her endearing, so she goes in the great tier. Next is John. He goes in the okay tier. I'm gonna put him at the bottom of okay tier. Like Gemma, got really screwed with the episode 1 twist. Was not his fault whatsoever to be eliminated, and then he got lucky and was voted back in. I did think it was funny that the traitors murdered him the first chance they could, which I probably would have done too. Usually with people who get brought back in later to the season, they're almost always faithful. No one ever really suspects them. They're kind of just there, which is why this like twist is over and done and should just be done with. I think he was okay. I don't think he was in long enough to really get a sense of what his game would have been like, but he was in long enough to get a good read on who he was as a character. I think he wasn't really that entertaining. I don't think he was annoying by any means, but not enough to go past the okay tier. Next is Eamon, and he is our first banished traitor. He goes in they were, I'll put him in great for now. I kind of want to push him to love because him as a character, but I also think he was a really good player. I thought he was the strongest of the 3 traitors. I thought he was going very far. I think his misstep was trying to reconcile Paudie and Katelyn, and I'll get to it, but Paudie really screwed over the other traitors. Oh my God, it was bad. He just should have took a step back and let Paudie and Katelyn go after each other. I think it is admirable that he was trying to protect Katelyn because Paudie was kind of the problem child. He really should have just seen that this was a lost cause, and getting in between them would just be bad for his game, and ended up being bad for his game. He was the first banished traitor because of it, which is very unfortunate because I do think he was actually really good. Again, a lot of his decisions would have been the same decisions I would have made if I was in position. I loved how he always went for the most brutal move, like murdering Niall when he had a really good showing at the challenge, and murdering Michele right after, and then murdering John the first chance he's available for murder. I thought those were so funny and so brutal. And I think also just those 3 specifically were good murders. They were people who weren't being suspected. They were random, but also brutal at the same time, which does leave a big impact with the faithfuls, which I think is good. And I think it was just so unfortunate he got caught so early because it was kind of his own doing. Like, oh my God, like him and Katelyn pulling Paudie aside and like asking people to leave the room so the 3 of them could talk was wild, absolutely wild, that the 3 of them were basically holding aside and saying, we're all the 3 traitors. Yeah, very bad move on Eamon's part. I do fault him for that, but yeah, I think that was a really bad call on Eamon's part to do that. He really just should step back, so I'll leave him in their great tier. Next is our next traitor banished, which is Katelyn, and I'll put her in the I think I'll put her in the they were good tier up at top of it. I did like Katelyn a lot. I also thought she was a pretty good traitor in terms of strategic gameplay. I did find her entertaining as a player. I do think she made a bad call in going after Paudie after she heard her name was brought up. Like, yeah, she needs to address it, but to do it at the round table was so suspicious. It really did point the finger at her being a traitor with Paudie. I will give her credit though when her and Eamon decided to pull Paudie aside, which first off was bad that they decided to do that, but she did kind of catch on like, oh, this is actually like really, really bad that 3 of us are in here. I'm gonna just leave. I think that was a good call on her part. She does outlast Eamon, which was surprising. I would have thought she would have gone before him. I also would have thought Paudie would have gone before any of them, but that didn't happen. But because I do think she made more mistakes than Eamon, I'll put her in the they were good tier, but I did find her entertaining. I think for the most part, she was a decent traitor. Also with Katelyn, her and Paudie, after Eamon got banished, decided to recruit Nick, which I think was a really bad move on Katelyn's part. For Paudie, it makes sense, but for Katelyn, like the second that Paudie's like, oh, I want either Nick or Andrew, she should have thought, absolutely not those 2. Those would be on your side, and you're already coming after me, Paudie. She really needs to get someone else into the turret who would not have sided with Paudie. I don't know why she agreed to go with Nick. I think that was a very foolish move on her part, which also edges her out of the grade 2 because that was a really bad call. Next is Andrew, and honestly, with Andrew, I'm putting him in the okay tier. I almost put him dislike because he was just kind of meh. Like he was there, but obviously he lasted way too long to be put in they were there tier. I don't know. He wasn't that entertaining character for me. I don't think he was that good at the game, but him running back to Katelyn after his dad told him to watch for her was so stupid. Like, why would you, like, your own dad's telling you need to watch for this person. At this point, I think he already suspected that his dad is a traitor. So if he suspects his dad is a traitor and his dad tells him watch out for Katelyn, one would think he would assume, oh, Katelyn must also be a traitor. Why would you go to her and tell her, hey, Paudie is the one who told me your name? First off, why would you have to ever tell Katelyn that? You keep that to yourself. And second off, why would you throw your own dad under the bus? That was ludicrous and crazy. Very bad move, and ended up blowing up in Paudie's face and in Katelyn's face, and then came back to Andrew, and he kind of also, well, I don't think that part specifically led to him being banished, but that was still a really bad move in general. And with Paudie and Andrew being a father-son duo, we've seen this a couple times in the UK season with a known pair going in. I think they are probably the least interesting known pair I've seen so far with this twist. I don't believe the whole like, oh, like we didn't know the other's gonna be here because we didn't talk to each other. Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on that. I'm sure they knew. I don't know why they lied about it. There's no way you don't know that the other is going to be on the Traitors. There's no way you never talked about it. That is ludicrous. I don't believe it for 1 second. But I don't really mind the whole known pair twist. I do think it creates some intrigue. If there is going to be an already established known pair, I think the cast as a whole should know, hey, there's a secret duo, because it is a bit of an unfair advantage for that pair. I think the more interesting part about this is if the cast knew that there is a known secret pair and them trying to figure out who is that known pair. It adds more to the mystery of they're not just trying to find the traitors, they're also trying to problem solve who the known pair is. And maybe they're both traitors, maybe they're both faithfuls, but what if one is a traitor? That is very problematic because one's a faithful and one's a traitor. They're still going to work together no matter what. So I think moving forward, is there going to be a secret duo? Let the cast know. Let that be part of the intrigue and mystery, you know? More drama, it'll be more fun. Next is Mark, and Mark goes in the great tier. Loved Mark. He was so smart. Clocked Paudie and Eamon right at the bat. Very impressive he caught Eamon as early as he did. Mark was really good on death row. I was so annoyed with Faye when she chose to save Christine over Mark, who was clearly the most strategic and best faithful out of the four that were in, the other two being Joanna and Patrick. Very, very poor move to not save Mark, and they suffered the consequences because he was murdered, and he was a good faithful and a good traitor hunter, which is why he goes in the great tier. I almost want to kind of put him in love. Actually, I'll do it. I'll put him in loved. I really did like Mark. I think he was really good at the game. I think he was fun character, so he'll go in the love tier. Next is Patrick, and I kind of want to put Patrick in the disliked, but I think okay, I'll put him in the okay tier, and I'll say why in a minute. For the most part, I didn't really like him. I think he had really bad reads, like with Nina. Kind of crazy. He went after her, but then again, he did do what most faithfuls don't do, which is, hey, I was wrong. I'm gonna take a step back and let other people do it, because clearly my reads are not great, even though he did kind of still try to get his opinions out there when his reads were consistently not great. But especially right after the Nina banishment, he did actually take a step back. I do think he was all over the place. I don't think he had a lot of good reads until the very end, when he got banished and he was like, hey, Nick, you got seduced, said you didn't accept it, but I think it's possible you were then blackmailed, which is spot on. Like, he was absolutely correct with that. Kudos to that, and because of that, he etches out of the dislike tier, but for the most part, I don't really like him. Next is Christine, and Christine, I am going to put her in they were good tier because, and only because she was entertaining, but she was not good at the game. She was not. She only voted for a traitor twice, which was Katelyn, which she voted for her during Eamon banishment. So she didn't vote for Eamon, but she did vote for a traitor. And then of course she voted for Katelyn and she got banished. Did not vote for any other traitor. And she had a really bad read. She was all over the place. She suspected the most random people, like, actually have it up here. Who did she suspect? Oh, Patrick and Linda. Yeah, probably the people, Linda, and then Wilkin. She did kind of have a record at the end being on death row, and then she was the one who was the hug of death coffin gate thing. Side note, I actually really do like this twist, this whole killing someone in public and then the next day they have this whole funeral procession challenge. I do love an on-screen death. I think that's really dramatic and entertaining to watch. And also, I think it's just a lot of fun. And I do like it that the faithfuls are already told that the traitors murder somebody in plain sight. They don't always tell them that. Sometimes they do give them more specifics, like in UK and I think the US, they were told that someone drank poison, so they could kind of decipher, okay, it was someone was having a drink, and that's the clue. Here, it was just, they were cursed. They weren't told about the hug, so they weren't told the specific method that was used, but they were told that this happened in plain sight, which I do like. It does add some intrigue, because now the faithfuls are trying to figure out, okay, what was the thing that killed this person? And with Christine, she was the most active in being like, I think it's me. She was the most panicked out of literally anybody else, which I thought was kind of funny in a morbid way. But she was all over the place. She went after Ben hardcore, which was such a wrong read. And then she suspected Faye, which I do like it when faithfuls suspect their closest allies, because a lot of times they don't when it's like, you kind of really should. Even between those two, she was still wrong. Tizzle, for some reason, never suspected Paudie, which is crazy. But I do think she was entertaining. I think she had some fun confessionals and had some fun entertaining moments during the daytime discussions, like when she was going up, like basically thirsting over John. Thought that was funny, but not very good at the game. Next is Paudie. I put him in the disliked tier. I did not like him at all. I thought he was very bad at the game. I didn't find him entertaining whatsoever. And I do sometimes find players that are messy entertaining, and Paudie was messy, but not in an entertaining way for me. I don't mind when traitors go after each other. In fact, I find it entertaining, but the way he did it was so bad. And then he would get so flustered when the other traitors were coming for him. He's like, I don't understand why they're coming for me. Or like the round table, he would bite back harder at them. It's like, dude, Paudie, you are the problem. You threw out Katelyn's name first. Why are you mad? And this is not the first time this has happened, but I always hate it when a traitor like Paudie gets upset with other traitors who come after them when that traitor, aka Paudie, was the one who threw out the other traitor's name first. Like, you are the one who started this. Why are you upset that they're not coming after you and retaliating? That always annoys me, frustrates me. So that aspect was annoying for me. He was very bad at the game, not good at all. It's crazy he got as far as he did. I don't know why he didn't get banished right after Katelyn, or he didn't get banished before Katelyn and before Eamon, quite frankly. It was pretty obvious he was a traitor. And it was crazy that they did catch on that Katelyn was a traitor, so that by association, they sure thought, oh, Paudie must be a traitor as well. But they didn't, at least not immediately after. Granted, Nick was blackmailed at this point, and so maybe Nick would have gone after Paudie right after Katelyn was banished, but he was not a traitor, so it kind of makes sense he would kind of want to keep Paudie in a little bit longer. So maybe if he wasn't blackmailed, Paudie would have been banished next. But for the other faithfuls, girl, like, why didn't you banish him? Speaking of faithfuls who didn't banish him, let's go to Amy next. Amy goes in the disliked tier. She was kind of invisible, or at least not memorable whatsoever, and she was very bad at the game. Let's check her voting record, shall we? Let's see. Diane, Nina, Linda, Wilkin, Katelyn. Okay, so she got a traitor there. Patrick, Vanessa. So she only voted for Katelyn and never any of the other traitors, which at this point, mind you, 4 traitors have been banished, and she only voted for one of them. Once! Granted, it was correct, but once! And she didn't even vote for Paudie, which was super obvious! That was really bad gameplay on her part. And Amy is the classic, like, faithful, dumb faithful who gets far in the game and doesn't realize why she's as far as she's in. It's because you're done. Like, sorry to be rude, but you are. Your voting record shows. At this point, Nick is a traitor. He just blackmailed Ben and brought him in. So it's just a dick fest up in the turret. But it's at this point, I think the murders go downhill. Yeah, but with Amy, there's not much to say. Bad faithful, not entertaining, go in the dislike tier. Next is Joanna, and oh, Joanna. I don't know where to put Joanna. I'll put it in good. Joanna had some interesting moments. One of the moments she had that I liked was when Katelyn was banished and Ben and Nick had tried to go after Andrew, and they were doing the whole meta game of, we could keep Katelyn because she is a traitor that we know and we could use her and try to figure out who the traitors are. She was one of the people that also went for Andrew. I do really appreciate that metagaming. I think that is smart metagaming. I also give Joanna props in that she did recognize her position. She recognized she had no alliances, which is kind of bad, especially in the end game because you need kind of alliances keeping the game, but she kind of recognized that and was kind of a floater. And I appreciate that that's the type of game she wanted to play. I do think she was a bit messy, and I think she kind of went around and kind of had a bit of too much of loose lips. That said though, the way she got banished is probably one of the most brutal banishments I have watched. And this happens all the time where someone gets kind of caught up in their own lies and they say a lot of things they don't remember. This is the case where everything Joanna said was true. Like Vanessa, Oyin, and Faye all went after her saying that Joanna had said that they had done this stuff and they never said that when they did. Like the big thing was that was clearly something that Joanna did not make up was Oyin talking to Joanna and asking about, I forget the exact line, but something about like, who is she voting for right before the voting at the round table. And Oyin just flat out didn't remember she did that. And she totally did. And I thought it was so frustrating the way Faye, Vanessa, and Oyin went after her and would basically call her lie when she wasn't. And the way she broke down and what she said right before she goes, she's faithful, was just so brutal. I felt honestly really bad for her, and she kind of felt like she just got a bad deal. I don't think she was the best faithful. The only, like, she did vote out Andrew. He was a traitor. And I do think she believed Katelyn was a traitor. She just didn't vote for her because she's part of the metagaming thing. So better than some other faithfuls, but did not have a lot of good reads. So I can't put her past good because of that. And honestly, she really goes in the good tier because of her banishment. Not because I felt bad for her. It was brutal, but it was so entertaining and like an intriguing way, like, wow, like that's what I live for when watching the Traitors. It is a very intense game. And episode 10, where Joanna gets banished, and episode 11 were, I think, the best episodes. And the reason why both those episodes are my favorites is because both those roundtables were really intense, and both the banishments with Joanna and then Faye, who I'll get to, were so brutal. It's like, dang, it was hardcore, it was brutal, it was intense, and it's what I like. I don't like people getting quietly banished, and both Joanna and Faye were not. And I, from a viewer's perspective, really appreciate that. Next is Wilkin, and Wilkin will go and they were there tier. I cannot, in good faith, put him any higher in that, despite making it 10 episodes. 10 episodes he made it. Barely saw him. He barely had a confessional. And usually I don't like it when shows do this. They like under edit somebody, like they don't give them confessionals, because I think it's unfair. Like with shows like Survivor, even if we don't think so, everybody has a part to play. But with Traitors, some people really don't. And I truly think Wilkin had no part to play. First off, he didn't have any good reads, bad voting track record, not a good faithful at all in the game. He did vote out Katelyn and Andrew, I'll give him that. But for the most part, just had really bad reads overall, and just was like a nothing burger. He wasn't entertaining whatsoever. He was barely on the screen, and honestly, I can't even fault the show for that. Like, he truly gave them nothing. He is one of those people that I think, how on earth did you get casted? Like, you brought nothing to the table. How did you get on the show? Like, what did the casting department see in you? Because you would just nothing. That's why I can't put him past they were there, because I think that's a statement in itself to put him in that tier despite making it so long in the game. Next is Faye. And Faye, I will put her in, yeah, she'll go and they were okay. I feel like I really need to, you know what? No, I think I'll keep the they were there tier just like that is. Faye, I clocked right off the bat, was going to be like Leanne from Traitors UK season 3. You know, they look similar, but just the vibe I got was like, oh, she's going to be somebody who you would think would be really good at the game, but quickly demonstrates that she is not, and she was not good at the game. She had blinders on, did not suspect Ben and Nick being traitors, even though they both were. She just had a lot of bad reads. Her track record, I don't think was that good. Let's check, shall we, actually? Okay, voted for Paudie when Eamon went, which honestly fair. Did vote for Katelyn, did vote for Andrew, did vote for Paudie. Okay, maybe she wasn't what they thought. But still, I think for the most part, was fairly wrong. And I think especially at the end game, had she gone further, I don't think she would have gotten Nick or Ben out. I think she would have lost next to them. She was one of the 3 that went out to Joanna unfairly, I think. I will give her some credit, like in episode 8, when she became under fire, I think she handled herself very well. I think she defended herself very well. I don't remember the exact points people were trying to get at her, but during that round table in episode 8, I was impressed. I was like, you defended yourself well, and she didn't get any votes. I do think her banishment was also very brutal, the way people were coming at her, criticizing her. But I think the most brutal part was Ben and Nick turning on her, not only like being traitors themselves, but also just end up not even voting for her. Like the only 2 unanimous votes in the whole season, and I'm not including the Ring of Fire, Ring of Truth, whatever thing, were both Joanna and Faye, where they would just come after hard. That's just brutal. And when you thought Nick and Ben weren't going to vote you out, you were close to them and they turned on you like that, that was a brutal way to go. And I actually think I will put her on top of okay, because looking back at her track record, she did vote out 3 of the 4 traitors that have been banished at this point. And she didn't vote out Eamon because she voted for Paudie, which is fair. Next is Nick, and I'll put him in they were great tier. He was probably, outside of one other person, the best player in the game. Was really good traitor hunter. He had the meta game of like, oh, I think Paudie's a traitor. I'm not gonna go after him because he's protecting me. Now, granted, he did say that out loud. Like, the quiet part you should not say out loud, he did, which was really bad. I'm sorry, I convinced myself, maybe not the great tier. He did turn down a seduction, which is crazy. You should never, ever, 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 ever turn down a recruitment from the traitors. Ever, ever, ever. I can't believe he did that. That was really bad. He got super lucky he wasn't murdered and that Paudie was a bad traitor and decided to blackmail him again. But he was a good traitor. That said, I do think he made some really bad choices when it comes to the murdering. He should not have murdered Amy. He should have kept her in because yes, she was a part of groups and I do understand you wanted to break up that group. Amy was a wrong faithful, a very bad faithful, was probably not looking at you. Should have really broken up Oyin and Vanessa, who were a strong duo and were a lot stronger and smarter at the game. Really should have broken them up, and that led to Nick's downfall, I think. And I also don't think he did a good job at pulling Kelley in when it was at that final 5. It was pretty clear Kelley was a swing vote. He kind of did try to work with her, but it was kind of too little too late. I do think he made some poor decisions there, which is why he'll be at the bottom of the great tier. But overall, he still really was good at the game. He was kind of smug at times, and I get it. He talked the talk and walked the walk. He did. He really did. So I kind of, but like, why the side smirk? I just hate it. And maybe it's involuntary, but I hate when people do this. It's just like, okay, we get it. You really get the game. And you can be full of yourself when it's deserved, but like the smirking, I don't know. I just really hate the side smirk. But yeah, that got on my nerves. It was kind of obvious Kelley was leaning towards siding with Vanessa and Oyin, which again, I think those two really did a good job of pulling Kelley in. I think Nick kind of dropped the ball. He really should have, from like that morning, him and Ben really should have gone after Kelley. And again, like killing Amy and killing Wilkin, like Wilkin, I get he was a bit of a wild card and you thought maybe Vanessa would be more predictable and be fine, keep Vanessa, but you really should have murdered Oyin. She was so smart at the game. Wilkin was not. I don't think he would have come after you. I think you could have easily swayed him to come to your side. Those two were just really bad murders, and I think that came to bite Nick. But for the most part, he was really good at the game. So I go in the great tier. And last is Ben, the final person eliminated and the 6th and final traitor banished. He goes in the they were good tier. I think he was actually pretty good at the game. Like Nick, and I forgot to mention this, Nick had a lot of the metagaming, so I'll give him kudos to that because I do think that was smart. Ben was also part of that. Ben was actually a lot smarter than I gave him credit for in the beginning. That said, he was a lot better faithful than he was a traitor. He was a really bad traitor. And I think he had a lot of mistakes. I need to check my notes because I forget what I exactly wrote down for him. Oh, okay. This is Ben, this is also Nick. In episode 10 at that breakfast, they were both very overconfident. Like they were kind of laughing. They didn't seem as stressed, which should have been a red flag to the faithfuls, but they didn't catch on. But they were too relaxed and too overconfident. And that was also the first breakfast that Ben was a traitor. First breakfast, he was blackmailed. He was like, oh, well, they wouldn't blackmail Nick or I. Well, first off, we already know they probably would because Nick was seduced or attempted seduced. And second off, why would that be like the first thing you say? Like that is so suspicious. Like that was really bad. At the final roundtable when Nick got banished, he did not hold his own. He was trying to go after Oyin and like, well, you're a really strong faithful. Like, why are you still here? It must mean that you or Vanessa's a traitor. And Oyin just goes, well, Nick is a strong faithful, arguably even stronger. That was a really bad point when Nick is right there. And then he's bringing up about like, oh, it must be one of the women because, well, Andrew was brought as a traitor. Like, what are you talking about? I don't think that was his point. His point was he did say that Paudie had mentioned looking out to the women, but he either misspoken or he kept trying to add Andrew to that evidence that it has to be one of the women because of Andrew, which didn't make any sense, which Oyin just like clocked. I do think Ben was kind of in not a screwed position, but a difficult position when Nick got banished because the faithfuls were really good at kind of having a good idea of how many traitors there were. They always suspected when there was a blackmail. They had a good idea there were 2 less, so they were looking for 2. And in this season, they did not have the whole at final 5 and on, you will not reveal your roles, which I actually really don't like that twist. And so it's like, well, we know there's 2, so we're just going to keep going till there's 2. Now, there have been other seasons where they did reveal the roles all the way to the end, and faithful still lost because they did not have a good idea of how many traitors there were. And granted, some of those seasons they didn't know what blackmail was a thing, which was so stupid that they weren't told that yeah, people can actually be recruited and there could be murder the same night. That's so stupid. So I'm glad they knew that a blackmail could happen. I'll give it to the faithfuls just being strong and just being really good at figure out how many traitors there were. Overall, there were some really bad faithfuls, but this was a pretty strong faithful cast. Nick and Ben being one of them before they were traitors, and they were part of the ones who helped them figure out how many traitors there were. They were part of that, and they kind of unknowingly led to their demise because they knew they were 2. And of course, with Nick and Ben, it's like, well, if Nick's a traitor, he probably recruited you, Ben, And that's why I think murdering Wilkin and Amy was a bad call, because you left a tight duo in Vanessa and Oyin, and keeping Kelley, like Kelley there was fine. And I know they wanted to keep Faye, and Faye would have helped them in the end game. Very unfortunate that they lost her, but oh, it was such a mistake to keep Vanessa and Oyin in, so I have the dock points from him with that. He wasn't, I don't think he had himself great as a traitor. I think he got lucky that it was kind of towards the end game. So, you know, some of the mistakes that probably would have been caught earlier, he got lucky with because there were less people in the castle. But yeah, I think he'll stay in the good tier. Now, our 3 winners. And I have them in the order from worst to best, with Kelley being the worst of the 3 winners. I'll put her in okay tier. Voted for Eamon pretty early on. I'll give her credit. Did vote out Eamon and Katelyn. I'll give her credit for that. Did not vote out Paudie. Like, I'm sorry. Not voting out Paudie is crazy. Never voting for him is crazy. Like, how could you not suspect him? I do think Vanessa and Oyin had to do a lot of heavy lifting with Kelley to get her to go with them. I will give Kelley some credit in that she did recognize that she wasn't the best at the game. She was like, wow, like, I've been wrong a lot. Like, I did not suspect Andrew. I really need to step up my game, which she didn't. She did side with the correct side in Oyin and Vanessa, so I will give her props for that. She was kind of quiet. I don't think she was that entertaining, so I think I'll put her top of okay. She is the winner. She did ultimately make the right decision. She did get 4 out of the 6 traitors, so I was put her on top of okay because of that. Next is Vanessa, and Vanessa, I will put her in the great tier. She got 5 of the 6 traitors. The only one she didn't get was Andrew. Of the 6 traitors, if the one you didn't get was Andrew, I don't necessarily fault you there. He was literally a traitor for a day and didn't even murder anybody. But overall, Vanessa, I think, was really strong at the game. I do think she had some misreads, which as a faithful, it's really hard to not have any misreads. Where I do falter the most is the Joanna banishment and the Faye banishment, but she was still very active, got a lot farther than she quite frankly should have been murdered way sooner, especially compared to other murders. The one question mark I do have with her game is her and Ben's relationship. Like, okay, to backtrack a little bit, it was hilarious that when Nick was banished, Oyin and Kelley got up, they started like, yeah, we got it. And Ben and Vanessa silence. Like, I get from Ben's perspective, but also Ben, why didn't you fake being excited? You should have, whatever. But with Vanessa, I was really confused on why she was so quiet. And I know that she and Nick got in a tiff and she probably took some of the things he said personally. I do understand that part, but still, you were right. He was a traitor. Why are you not celebrating? My suspicion is because when Nick was banished, she then knew that Ben is in fact a traitor, which I think she already suspected, but I think she needed confirmation Nick first, because at the Fire of Truth, when they were voting again, Vanessa was in tears. The show did show us, Vanessa says that her friends call her Nessa, and Ben had asked if he could call her that, and she said yes, so they clearly had a tight friendship. I would understand if she would be that emotional if she suspected Oyin was a traitor, but Ben, like, I don't think the show showed us enough for us to realize, yes, this reaction, this tears coming for her from Ben makes sense. And I think that's why she ended up not celebrating when Nick got banished. That's my theory. I did not watch her Uncloaked episode. Maybe I should have before doing this. I did not watch it, which for the most part, when I do my making videos, try not to watch those interviews because I want to go based off of what the show presented to us, which sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's not. And next is my sweet Oyin. Loved. I mean, there was no other tier. If there was a tier higher than loved, she would be in it. She might probably be one of my favorite contestants ever. And here's why. Her track record. She got all the traitors. Look at that, baby. She voted incorrectly very few times. I mean, for Diane, it's the first one, understandable. This is one of the first to clock Eamon at a point where I didn't think he had a lot of heat on him. I was very impressed. She did clock him. Got out Katelyn, got out Andrew, or voted for Andrew twice. Granted, the first time she did, he wasn't a traitor yet. Her 2 biggest faults were Joanna and Faye. With Faye, I understand her reasoning for why she suspected Faye, in that, hey, that emotional reaction you had, that could just be guilt. And I do think you do need to think about that sometimes. Like, someone might be emotional, and honestly, more often than not, they really are just that emotional, but you should look into that. You should be suspicious of that. And I give her kudos for being of that mindset. She was wrong, but I give her kudos for that mindset. Joanna, yeah, her biggest fault, forgetting that she actually did say that thing to Joanna and then using that as, well, I didn't actually say that to vote Jenna out. That was really bad. But to her credit, and to also Vanessa's and Faye's credit, she own that. A lot of faithfuls would be like, well, she kept making mistakes and it was her fault, it wasn't me. But they didn't do that. And especially Oyin and Vanessa, they were both like, yeah, like we messed up. That was on us and we feel bad and we did that. Like they, from what I saw, owned it. And I give them kudos for that. Like, yes, thank you for being accountable of your actions. Thank you. And just overall, I think she had the best reads. And yes, Nick also had really good reads, but I think Oyin was better. She was onto Eamon a lot sooner than Nick was when he was a faithful. The thing I will give Nick though, compared to Oyin, is that Nick had the social capital to actually lead votes. With Oyin, she would say her piece at the round table, but she didn't seem to have a lot of sway in the beginning. Yeah, she respected Eamon, but she didn't have a lot of sway to get the votes onto Eamon. And she probably helped with that. And she had receipts. So when traitors were banished, she had the receipts to back it up, to back the evidence to get them banished. But especially in the beginning, she was not the one leading the charge with Eamon, with Katelyn. It was Nick, and granted, Nick didn't end up voting out Katelyn at the time she did get banished, but he did really lead the charge that, okay, Katelyn is a traitor. And same with Andrew. He led that charge. Oyin was a part of that, but it was Nick that led the charge. Towards the end though, I do think I give her the most credit of going out to Ben and Nick. I give that credit to Oyin. And again, she's the only one who voted for all 6 traitors. The section of literally 3 votes, she didn't vote for a traitor. That is insane. Best faithful out there. Probably the best faithful winner up to this point. Spoilers for US season 2. Skip like a couple seconds if you don't want to hear it. Trishelle, up to this point, has been, I think, the best faithful winner. But now Oyin is the best faithful winner, I believe. Well, I think Trishelle was better at the metagaming aspect of it, but I think Oyin had stronger and better reads. Anyways, that is my ranking of Ireland season 1 of The Traitors. Now on to other things. SABn, I hope I'm saying your name right. SABn as a host, I think it was okay. You know, she went the route of, I'm gonna play a character. And usually there's one of 2 routes the host does. They're either gonna be themselves or they're gonna play a character. She went the character route. I think there were times where it was a little much. It was like, okay, you're doing a lot there, but I actually don't blame her for that. I blame the editors. There was like a specific, I can't remember what episode I can't remember seeing, but there's like a specific shot where like we just are lingering on her like saying stuff or like reacting to something, and then we could have cut away. So I think at times they showed a little bit too much of her. Feels a little forced, I think, at some point. But also, this is the first time you're hosting a season. Getting out the kinks, maybe next season she'll still play the character out, but we'll get out the whole feels forced aspect. I do like what this season had. They had the hounds. Like in the US, they have Fergus. I think Claudia had a dog at one point. They had these 4 hounds, which I thought was a fun motif. But then they like disappeared after like the first week. And then they randomly showed up in the beginning of the last episode. Like with the peacocks in the UK seasons, I thought we would see the dogs a lot, or, you know, maybe they'd probably be part of a challenge or something. They kind of just disappeared. I like the hound motif. If you're going to do it, keep it, or to get rid of it. My favorite moment with SABn is at one of the breakfasts towards the end, where she's talking, Vanessa's reacting very loudly, and SABn says something on the lines of, I would be able to get out if you were quiet. And then at the end she says, on the lines of, I don't like being interrupted. And just called Vanessa the fuck out. I thought that was so funny. And there were a couple of times she did that, and I think that is the best, when the host kind of calls people out. Oh, and I also really love, and I don't know if this is a host decision or just this is how the production team of the Traitors Ireland decided to run it. I love how at the end she would ask everybody, okay, now is the time, if you haven't spoken yet, to talk. Like at the final round table, she said, it's the last time to talk. This is the last round table. Do not regret not saying anything. I love that she said that. I love I believe it was the banishment when Joanna got banished. Faye and Oyin and Vanessa did a lot of the talking. I think it was Ben. It was someone she talked to directly, like, hey, Ben, do you want a word? She had asked someone who basically didn't get a word in directly if they wanted a word. I love that she said that. I love that she recognized, hey, these contestants did not get a word in. I'm going to give them a chance. So from a mechanic standpoint, I love SABn as a host. Making me, she's a mistress. There you go, comes back. Andrew being recruited. I think Faye defended herself pretty well. Oh, yeah. The other thing I also liked with SABn is how she would choose Faye to help take down the portraits. Literally the shortest person. Like I think the first time she did it, she knew she needed to ask contestant, and I think she just kind of was like, Faye, you're the first person I saw. But then as she continued going back to her, again, despite being literally the shortest person there, and probably even shorter than SABn, I thought that was funny. Just a bit that wasn't planned, but was humorous, that I wanted to point out. Also, I love Savon and Dairy Girls. She's the best character. She's so funny. I can't stress her. I don't want to spoil anything, but watch Dairy Girls just to watch Sister Michaels. You won't regret it. And with this cast overall, I do think they were fairly entertaining. What I do really like about them is that they were fighting, they were passionate, they were going all in, they held nothing back, and I love that. I love players who just go all in because that is what you need to do from an entertaining standpoint. I love it from a gaming standpoint. I think that's just what you need to do. I saw the fire of all of them and I love that. I really appreciate that. Love to see it because sometimes people don't. Some people are quiet, like with UK season 2. Some of the people towards the end were just quiet, and had they had that fire underneath them, they probably would have won, but they didn't. But I love that towards the end, these people did not go out with a whimper. With the season overall, I don't know where I would rate it. I think it's probably going in the middle. I think the season was consistently good. It didn't have any low lows, but also didn't really have any high highs. Oh, this is the other thing I thought was absolutely crazy. 50,000 euros. 50,000 euros as the max prize pot is crazy. That is the lowest I've seen. I think New Zealand, the first season was 70,000. I think it went a little bit up in the second season. And granted, like there is a conversion rate, but 50,000 euros, which I just looked up, is 58,000 US dollars. 58,000 US dollars. That is not a lot of money. I don't know what the taxes are like in Ireland. I don't know if they get taxed for any of that like they would in the US. It was crazy and hilarious how someone would be like, oh, you could win 2,000 euros. The end prize being 42,900 euros. That is not a lot of money, especially between 3 ways. Like, give them more money. Like, come on. Like, will you really not have the budget to have a bigger prize pot? Like, come on, at least double that. Especially with Oyin, who is one of the best faithfuls we've had. Give her more money, please. She deserves it. Oh yeah, and every season of the Traitors, when they do the Fire of Truth, they throw in a bag and the smoke either turns green or red if they want to vote again or not. And in this one, it was just, oh, the fire blows up, you vote again. If nothing happens, then you don't want to vote again. Kudos for them trying to be different, but also it was way less dramatic. Waiting to see nothing happen is so not entertaining. Yeah, okay. I looked at my notes. I think I said all I want to say. This was kind of a chaotic review, tier list, whatever. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm also, okay, to be fair, I am running on like no sleep. I had to take my brother to the airport at 4 a.m. And so I did not get a good night's sleep. And I'm filming at 11 o'clock at night because this is the only time I had a chance to film this. And so I'm like confuzzled right now. So I'm like, it's probably why I might be a little bit incoherent, which is just gonna be a bitch to edit. I'm hoping to upload again. What am I even saying? I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I'm done. Let's just do it. I'm done. Thank you for coming. Please, what do I say? Oh, make sure to press the subscribe button and follow the bell notification. And yeah, there's nothing else to say. Ta-ta.